Hey everybody, Z-Wink here from Z-Wink University. I want to talk today about approaching a target. I get asked this a lot, approaching a target. It's kind of like walking up to somebody on the street and approaching them. Like, I guess you have to know how to do that or something. You can't just walk up and say, hey. You have to, how to hold your hands and which way to look and not look. And I don't know. I don't think it's that complicated personally, but maybe it is for bug bounty programs. So let's talk about this a little bit. Bug Crowd has a lot of public programs. HackerOne has a lot of public programs. Whatever. All the platforms have a lot of public programs. When you first start out, all you have access to are public programs usually, unless you can manage to get a bunch of private invites somehow, some other way. So you need to know how to approach, these big programs or even private programs. This methodology kind of works. And you need to understand what the idea of approach really means. Okay, so when you're hacking, when you're pen testing, when you're conducting a vulnerability assessment, the first phase is or should always be reconnaissance. Okay, so approaching a target means reconnaissance. It means preparing yourself to learn about the thing that you're going to attack, and trying to figure out what the attack surface is, what is in scope, what is out of scope, and go from there. So if we think about it first, this is Pinterest. Okay, maybe you don't know what Pinterest is. I get invites through platforms for companies I've never heard of, and I have no idea what they are. So for me, it's not a terrible exercise to go to google.com and type in what is Pinterest or something, right? And maybe I was actually kind of hoping Wikipedia would come up, but this works too, right? Because there's a Wikipedia page. So let's say Wikipedia came up. Pinterest is an image sharing social media service designed to enable saving and discovery of information on the internet using images, whatever. Okay, so you could read what Pinterest is, learn about the company, learn about the size of the company. Look, they're $3.5 billion in assets. Maybe it tells you how many members they have or how many users hit it. Whatever, it gives you an idea of the scope. Yeah, there we are, 11.7 million unique visitors. Okay, so you got an idea, and that was in 2012, so this is not new. So a lot of customers, a lot of money, big company. All right, so you can go out first and learn about the target, learn about what their business model is, and wrap your mind around that so you have the context needed when hacking it, right? What is important to them, what's meant to be shared, what's not meant to be shared. Obviously, it's an image sharing website. So if you report a vulnerability that somebody can see somebody else's images, well, you didn't do your job very well. That's the entire purpose of the platform. So you need to understand that. Now, maybe Pinterest has like a private like privacy option on their posts or their pins, in which case if you could get to somebody else's private image sharing pin post thing or whatever, well, now you found a vulnerability. You would not have known that if you didn't have the context of the program. So context is important. Okay, you need to figure out what you can about the company and get context through search engines, not by asking people and being lazy. Search engines. All right, step 2 is you need to know what all exists about the company. So we know what they are now, we know what they do, we know how many people that use them. Obviously, I would have gone into more detail if I were actually doing this, but that's sort of the nutshell of it, right? You do your research on what the company is. Now we're going to figure out what assets they have that we may be able to get paid for. That is the purpose of this, is to find bugs for valid assets to make money. That is the purpose, as I understand it, of bug bounty hunting. So as we see, API is explicitly in scope, like they really want you to test on that. Flask, good for server-side template injections, right? Always look at these sorts of things and try to derive what you can from them about what you're going to be testing. Star.pinterest.com web apps are in scope. So anything that's a web app at a subdomain of Pinterest would be in scope according to this. And the next thing you want to do is look at the out of scope to make sure that you're not testing things that are out. It looks like they don't want any sort of email triggering, rate limiting stuff, no denial of service, and no external auth injection. It looks like everything else is fair game. Okay, so what do we do first? If you don't have a paid subscription for an enumeration software tool of some kind, which may or may not be helpful, I have found that the subdomain finder, it's probably still saved up here. Yeah, there we go. The subdomain finder.c99.nl site does an extremely good job at finding most subdomains for all the targets, and it's free, right? So type in pinterest.com. We'll just use this guy for today and hit private scan. I don't know that really changes the output, but go with it, right? And as you can see, we've got lots of subdomains, which is good. The more the merrier. We want lots of subdomains. So what we do, we can't do crap with this. It's a web page. It doesn't help us hacking. The first thing you want to do is highlight all this data in these 3 columns. Stop right there, right? That's all we want. That's all we want right there. All I do is highlight 3 columns. Hit Control C. We're going to open up Notepad or a comparable text editor, and we're going to paste. That strips all the HTML crap out of the stuff we just copied. And now we're going to go into OpenOffice Calc or a similar spreadsheet software and paste as a tab delimited format, okay? And now we have a clean list of subdomains and IP addresses over which to hack. I could give a crap about Cloudflare. And that's all we need right here, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and just, that's not an actual domain. That was a boo-boo from them. And we'll go ahead and just highlight all of these. Hit Control C, we've copied that list. And now we're gonna fire up old Burp Suite, right? We're gonna fire up the Burp Suite. Okay, so now with Burp Suite fired up, we're gonna come over to our proxy tool. No, we're gonna go to our target tool and scope and go ahead and set our scope. We're gonna do, use advanced, why not? /.pinterest/.com, and just in case there's something at the actual Pinterest parent domain, we'll do that. We'll pick it up separately. And now we can go ahead and turn our interceptor off, go over to target, sitemap, get rid of this crap that comes up every single time you launch it. And we're good. So let's fire up Firefox. We've got our, Firefox is installing your updates. Good, keep me secure, Firefox, I love you. And we're gonna go to www.pinterest.com. That's their main website, right? And we're only doing this just to get a valid request to make sure our scoping's working because we care. Caring is sharing, sharing is caring. All right, look at that. So that worked. We picked up our request to www.pinterest.com over HTTP to the S, S to the P to the P to the S. We're gonna hack better than the rest. Oh yeah. All right, there we go. We're gonna take this and we're gonna send it to the intruder. It's gonna take our base request into the intruder. All right. Why am I doing that? Because now I've got a valid HTTP request I can manipulate. What we gonna do, here's what's gonna happen. We're gonna do what's called a cluster bomb attack to figure out which of those subdomains are responsive and on which protocol, HTTP port 80 or HTTPS 443. Those are the only 2 I care about right now. We could go through the exercise. Let's go through the full exercise here for funsies. Let's do a full-blown cluster bomb attack. All right, so cluster bomb, I set cluster bomb mode. What we're gonna do, the first injection point is going to be right here. So that is going to tell it whether or not we're over HTTP or HTTPS. Let me go look and see if I have the, okay, no, that's perfect. And then we're going to highlight this for our second, variable, and that's gonna be our subdomains. And then we're gonna make a third with the port explicitly declared, okay? And that's gonna be a pain in the butt if I wanna do all the 80 and the 443, because obviously it's not gonna be responsive. Let's just do this to keep it simple for the moment. I was gonna check 84432 too, but I'm not gonna worry about that right now. Let's just do this, and the payloads, what we're gonna do for the first one is we're gonna insert add HTTP and HTTPS. So what that's gonna do is it's gonna loop over HTTP and HTTPS for every single request, for every single domain we tell it. And then in the second list here, we're gonna tell it to go over every one of these subdomains for both HTTP and HTTPS and get the responses. So here we're gonna make 788 requests. Because I don't want this to take forever, because when domains don't respond, it takes forever to get the response back, I'm going to do 788 simultaneous concurrent requests, which will mean we should get the data back almost instantaneously, except for the ones that don't respond back, which honestly we don't care about anyway. So let's go ahead and hit start attack. Oh, glorious hacking. 243 have already responded, so we've got at least that many up. Boom. Get wrecked. Boom, 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 boom. I've got hacking on a cloudy day. And we're hacking. We're hacking. Hackins and krakens and okay, I think that's probably all the responsive ones at this point. Anything that was up would have responded. So we get a list of things that are on HTTP and a list of things that are on HTTPS. Now, the interesting responses that I'm interested in for HTTP are those which do not redirect. Do not redirect. Why do I care about that? Well, because HTTP is bad. HTTP is where security goes to die. And as we can see, log.pinterest.com responded that it was okay with me requesting HTTPS. It was like, oh hey, that's pretty cool. I'm good with HTTPS. You can have that. So if anything sensitive is located at log.pinterest.com, potentially that's a problem, right? We've got server responding with Envoy, stuff and things and stuff. It supports get, post, and options. It supports star. Let's play with that for a second. No, focus. Focus, Z-Wink. We are not exploring log.pinterest.com yet. We're doing enumeration. Y'all almost got me. You see what happened there? I almost started hacking again. I did that last time, and I found something, and I'm not doing it. This time, I am behaving myself. Okay, so of all the HTTP responses, the ones I care about are the ones that didn't redirect. And that was only one. So that's interesting. What I'm going to do, let me see if it'll let me delete these out of here. I've never really tried that. Delete, remove, delete. No, that's not a thing. You're stuck with your results. Let's go down and look at HTTPS. So these are all of the websites starting here that are up on HTTPS. So we have a whole list of responsive domains. So what you can do, you can highlight all of these responsive domains, hit Control-C, and come over to your favorite editor like Notepad++. And now you have a list of all the responsive subdomains for Pinterest.com. And I'm actually going to come over here. I no longer care about this list. I'm going to Control-A, delete. Okay, delete all. Okay, hit Control-V. And now I've got a list of domainzors. You're my friends. 127 responsive domains. Okay, so this is our list of stuff that we want to try to hack. And the log, I did see the log was in here too. So this is our inclusive list. So now we have a footprint, okay? It's a wide open, what's the word I'm looking for? Public bug bounty program. And we're allowed to do star.pinterest.com. So any one of these subdomains could have things at it that we can make money for, like any of them, which is awesome. So most people, when they start hacking, I feel like go to www.pinterest.com and just start like trying to create an account and hack the main freaking website. I don't approach a target like that, since that's what we're talking about. I approach a target from the perspective that, or the assumption that 500,000 other hackers have already tried to hack into the Pinterest.com website dialogues and have looked at their main account settings. And I've got to find weird things that most people would not have found by just going to websites and clicking buttons and using Burp Suite, right? So as we start looking at these subdomains, more context will show up over here. We'll find more unrequested items, right? We'll see more unrequested URLs, and then we run burp.js link finder as we request things in the browser, and we start getting more links back in that. And that's when it really starts getting deep. Now, what I normally do, there's a couple options at this point. We've researched the target. We kind of get an idea what they do. We've researched the subdomains and sort of their footprint. And this may not be 100% of their footprint. Keep in mind, I only just used one website to give you an example. You want to try to find every subdomain you possibly can. The more abstract, weird subdomains, the more likely you are to find something. The harder they are to find, the more likely you are to find something. It means less people have looked at them. Another good source for this sort of information is the Wayback Machine, and I don't want to go into a lot of detail there, but if you're looking at specific endpoints one at a time, Wayback Machine, yes, you. And what you could do is pick any given subdomain and type it in here like www.pinterest.com or page link for that matter. And it will pull, see, we've got indexed versions of Pinterest.com going back to early 2010. And what can happen is that old URLs, old links, old server-side pages can exist from previous architectural versions of the platform that then can have bugs on them. While they may not still be indexable or searchable, they might still be located on the servers. And that's what you're using Wayback Engine for, is to try to find links that, while deprecated, while no longer used, could still be accessed to return sensitive data or something, like old functions. I found that on a big program recently where they had an old version of a reservation system still internet accessible, even though there was a new one, and I found it through the Wayback Engine, and it still worked and it still returned customer data, and it had almost no security on it. So it's valuable to go through the exercise of pulling up these old pages. You would just click a year, you would click one of the dates with a big bubble or something, and then it will load that snapshot up, and then you start basically trying to look at that and see what's different, find URLs. I'll let you explore that on your own time. That's another version of reconnaissance and approaching a target. So what we're doing is we're data gathering. Now at this point, let's say we've found all the subdomains we think we know are there. Things that are most interesting to me, usually to start with, might be the 403 pages, right? I like to search for broken authentication issues. So you can try normal like 403 bypass tricks on these sites right here. You can select just those out and run against them. Try to give headers like the exported for IP and IP address headers. There's an add-on for Burp, if you're not familiar with it, called 403 bypasser, and you can actually copy these payloads out of here. Let's send something to the repeater so I can show you this. And you can try to run all the URLs again using standard bypass headers like these. Maybe change the IP addresses up. Sometimes localhost will let you bypass it. Other times local IP addresses like a 10.1.1.1 or like a 172.16.1.1 or some kind of internal IP address space, a 169 address. I think these are all reserved, right? And you try maybe those 4 different prefixes and see if any of those 403s disappear for you, then you've got potentially an auth bypass right there. And all you had to do was scan a couple subdomains. That's one interesting thing to look at. The things that respond 200 are usually the targets that are meant to be accessible, but you always want to look at anything that responds with a 200, footprint it. Okay, so let's go deeper now. So we've done that exercise. We want now to maybe find what exists at a target. One way to do that, and we're at 16 minutes, so it's not too bad. We're gonna go to dev. Let's just pick an arbitrary URL here. Let's do dev.pinterest.com, okay? And we're gonna right click and send this to the intruder now. Now, what we want to do on this website is we want to see, and I do this for every subdomain that I'm interested in looking at. The first thing I want to do is scan it for useful files. You need to put together your own files list for doing this. Every hacker's got their own little file they like to load. I think I grabbed this one off GitHub, but anyway, go search on GitHub for like interesting files, security, payload, something or other. I'm sure it'll show up. And what we're doing is just looking to see if interesting indicators of software, API, admin, all these different kind of links that you tend to find important things at. This is the first thing I like to check. It's 9,000 useful payloads that could give you big money for just running a scanner, right? And these aren't the kind of like script kiddie scanners. What we're doing sort of an eyes-on approach here. So let's do 100, because you'll get a lot of false alerts with these if you just run it because some web servers will respond 200 for everything. And then you only get a larger payload size back if it's something interesting. So you really do have to put your eyeballs on these or you'll miss it. So let's go ahead and start here. We'll do 100 requests per second, or not necessarily per second, but per unit. Awesome. And we're getting a lot of 301 redirects. Really be liking to see a 200 here. Would be what we ideally want to. I thought I told it not the URL encode. Did I? Yeah, I did. Okay. So. Yeah, that's interesting. So anything that appears as a file gets a 301 moved permanently, and so we didn't find anything useful here. No joy, right? Okay, so let's do a different subdomain. I want to try to find something that returns a file here. This is sort of phase 2, right? Now we're picking individual domains and we're going in on them. Let's do brand.pinterest.com. That sounds like it might have something. I don't know why. You gotta believe brand.pinterest.com, run the exact same attack here. This one's responding a lot slower too. Okay, so that was interesting. Interesting behavior there with the %3F. Getting a lot of 403s on all these random file names. I'm starting to think this website is expecting authentication. What 404s are we getting? That or those? Huh. Oh, that's weird. It's doing some weird redirects when it gets a trailing slash. It doesn't like those trailing slashes. All right, Anyway, while this is running, so this is one method of doing some reconnaissance. Again, you can also go over to duckduckgo.com, use search engines. What are we on? Brand site, brand.pinterest.com. And there we go. So we're getting some interesting pages back. Photography guidelines. There's a color picker that may be susceptible to cross-site scripting or something. Let's see what we got. Never know. Oh, it loaded. I just was impatient. Let's try that again. Drag and drop your image. Oh, that doesn't sound vulnerable or anything, does it? Drag and drop your image. Okay, it's probably client side only. Drag and drop my image right now. Hold on one second. Let me come over. Here's ours. Download. I need a Z-Wink image. Z-Wink images. Got to find non-sensitive images of myself. Looking for an image. There it is. All right, let's see what this does. Does that actually do anything? That'd be kind of cool. Oh, wow. Candy Mountain, Charlie. That's pretty dang cool. Console. All right, let's see. Let's refresh this page here. So we found something at brand.pinterest.com, and it appears to actually be hosted at github.io, or at least pulling data from github.io. Let's see what happens when I do this. Okay, it didn't actually make any requests, so I was kind of curious. Black current and Vista blue. What is it doing? Okay, that's evidently red. I don't know why it doesn't know it's not red. Anyway, oh, there's an export button. What's that do? Export button makes no. That was completely client side as well. It's an interesting little website. It doesn't, based on the naming convention, this is again where human brains come into it. Based on the naming convention, there's probably not a lot of super important things here, but I mean, I am seeing a lot of unrequested paths. What is writing -dev? Let's see what it does. Unauthorized varnish. Interesting. Unauthorized varnish. It may just be that I got kind of banned from scanning. That can happen too. Oh, node. Ooh, node. Ooh, node. Guidelines. Node. See that? Now that's interesting. All right, so brand.pinterest.com/node. Let's see what that is. Got us a folder. Would you look at that, Jimmy? That's kind of cool. So I guess this is which node or something. That's interesting. So now it got all the links. Oh, look at that. Now we've got a basic authentication dialog. Things are getting more interesting. Test. Okay. I don't know about you, but I'm excited. Anytime I see basic auth, I'm like, Candy Mountain, Charlie. Let's try. I don't know where that just posted to, though. I didn't see the request. Oh, okay, it's a GET request with HTTP basic auth. So let's come back over. So this is getting more and more interesting. Faux rizzle. Let's sort by time descending so I can find my request. Now, remember, we like to use the internet for things. I don't see the basic auth header. Why is it not there? I would have thought that it was doing that. It's not there. Why are you not there? Pinterest session. Mind blowing, really. Okay, so there should have been test. I'm gonna make it mad. Usually, if you do it 3 times, it stops. Varnish. I'm gonna have to look into that. That's different. I don't know what's up with that. So we're finding some interesting things here. So we already found node. At this point, this site has gotten more interesting to me, right? And what is this? Views Ajax autocomplete user A. That's very strangely specific. Oh, snap. Okay, so this file is apparently an indicator of, I haven't run into this one yet, but this is apparently an indicator of something that lives on the server. Otherwise, it wouldn't be in the interesting files. So I don't know exactly what this is, so I'd have to go research it. When you work in the hacking field, right? You don't know everything until you do, and I haven't achieved that yet. So I would have to go start researching, pulling threads on what this is now. But anyway, this is the general. You've seen the process. I'm now starting to dig in to find things. I have enumerated subdomains. I start looking at subdomains. I start scanning subdomains, and then I load them in the browser. I use DuckDuckGo, and the next thing you know, you're working your way through problem solving and puzzles, looking for stuff, trying to figure out what it is, and should I have access to it, right? Like, what is this autocomplete user A thing? Like, is that something that should be blocked? What is it an indicator of? I would go and research this URL and figure out if it's something messed up and keep digging and pulling on that thread. That's what we do in this field, is we pull on threads, we pull on threads, we pull on threads until we figure out something useful. Like this node, I don't know. Like if it's asking for authentication, every time I click on one of those links, let's go back, it makes me think that you're supposed to be signed into the site, right? I don't know. Like it's obviously not publicly accessible, or at least it's not meant to be. So I'd have to say that if I can find a username and password for that, it says access the brand guidelines here. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what that does. Brand overview, that's asking for a password. If you're a Pinterest partner looking for login access, please reach out. Okay, so yeah, it's meant to be protected. So at this point, we start just trying to figure out if we can bypass authentication on this. And while it may not be the most useful thing in the world to get access to whatever's in here, if you bypass off, you bypass off, right? So I'm going to stop here. I'm letting y'all see, a window into my soul, more or less, of how I do this stuff. And it just doesn't end. On a target this big, you go as deep as you feel like going. I mean, what did we say? There were 100 and X something subdomains. Yeah, 127 responsive subdomains. We've got our work cut out for us, right? And each one of those subdomains could have multiple apps, and each app could have hundreds of APIs, and I mean, it doesn't end. So this is how I approach a target. You've seen it. There's nothing else I do. I'm not hiding anything from you. It's literally going out, getting subdomains. I sometimes will crawl IP addresses for certificates. I already made a post about that and a video about how to do it. And those certificates can have additional subdomains. But all that is to build the subdomain list up, right? Again, I try to get it from multiple sources. You got Subdomain Finder. You've got this Pretty Recon tool out there. There's a million of these things out there that you can use. Just whatever floats your boat, and start looking into it. I test manually. I almost all test manually. I'm looking through things and using my brain to try to figure out if there's problems. I'm not expecting to right-click this node with a scanner and have it find something for me. It just doesn't know, right? It's not going to know. So the vast majority of things I report, I have thought about, I have figured out on my own, and I have logged a bug about. Very rarely do I log a bug that a scanner has found. It's just been my experience. So if you can't do what I'm doing right now, which is going out to search engines and Googling things you don't know and trying to figure them out, then this is not the field for you. You have to self-educate, and you have to be willing to admit that you don't know most of everything there is to know out there about all these different architectures and technology. Like I encounter new stuff every day and new configurations of existing stuff, and it's just, you just go out there and learn on the fly, right? Use a search engine, type in things, and go. So this has been a 30-minute, again, intro into approaching a public bug bounty target. You first, again, learn what it is, the context of it. You go through all the subdomains and try to figure out what you're responsive. You then start looking for interesting things at the subdomains. You can use fuzzing tools, you can use search engines, you can load the apps and scrape URLs from the apps, and that's sort of phase one. Phase two is manually digging into each interesting thing that you see. If that phase doesn't interest you, I apologize. This is probably not the field for you. Because if you're expecting scanners to find everything, they're just not going to. I mean, the people that have the targets have also run the scanners, right? At least they should have. I mean, there's exceptional private programs where they've had no security, but you gotta be able to think in this field, guys. Listen, thanks for tuning in. Z-Week University, subscribe. I will continue to make videos over time, but this is when people kept asking me, how do I approach a target? This is how I approach a target. Again, I'm not hiding anything from you here. I go simple, I go easy, I take my time, and I relax, and I dig into these little things that I find. You can see I started going pretty deep on this brand thing, and I didn't want to go any deeper in case I accidentally found something, because I did that in the last video, so I'm not doing that. But thanks so much, and let me know if you have any questions. We'll keep making content. Peace out.